Hello, and welcome to the Gravel Ride podcast, where we go deep on the sport of gravel cycling through in-depth interviews with product designers, event organizers, and athletes who are pioneering the sport. I'm your host, Craig Dalton, a lifelong cyclist who discovered gravel cycling back in 2016 and made all the mistakes you don't need to make. I approach each episode as a beginner to unlock all the knowledge you need to become a great gravel cyclist. This week on the broadcast, we welcome Amy Davison from Trek Travel. Trek Travel is literally having an explosion of gravel trips for 2023. They've been in the gravel game for a few years with their Gerona gravel trip, which I took at the end of 22. But they're back for 23 with an expanded roster of 6 trips, 3 in North America and 3 in Europe. I'm excited to sit down with Amy and go over all the details. Before we jump in, I need to thank this week's sponsor, Athletic Greens. I feel like everybody's been talking about Athletic Greens recently. I was just listening to Ted King's podcast, and he was talking about his daily Athletic Greens routine. Like me, he takes Athletic Greens every day. My personal routine is mix it with a cup of ice. I love it cold. I guess the big question is why? Why do I take Athletic Greens? As you may recall, I've been taking Athletic Greens for going on 5 years. I was looking for something that would replace my desire to have a multivitamin in my life. I knew I wasn't getting all the nutrients I needed in any given day. In a simple powdered format, Athletic Greens contains 75 vitamins, minerals, and whole food sourced ingredients, including a multivitamin, multimineral, probiotic, green superfood blend, and more. It all works together to fill those nutritional gaps in my diet. It helps increase energy and focus, aids with digestion, and supports a healthy immune system, all without the need for a counter full of pills. Let's start your 2023 with a simple, sustainable nutritional habit. So whether you're looking for peak performance, better health, or just covering your bases, Athletic Green makes it easy to invest in your energy, immunity, and gut health every day in a simple fashion. Simply visit athleticgreens.com/thegravelride and join health experts, athletes, and health-conscious go-getters around the world who make a daily commitment to their health. Athletic Greens has a special offer for podcast listeners. Simply visit athleticgreens.com/thegravelride and you'll get a free year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs today. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/thegravelride. With that business behind us, let's jump right into my interview with Amy Davison from Trek Travel. Amy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited. I just learned about the massive expansion of gravel travel trips that Trek is going to be offering in 2023. After my wonderful experience in Girona, I had to get you on the line and talk about everything that's going on. Before we dig into some of those trips, let's just start by let the listener know where you're from, who you work for, how long you've been working at Trek Travel.
Sure. I live in Spearfish, South Dakota, north of Black Hills. Really great place to ride. I work for Trek Travel, and I'm a trip designer from Trek Travel, but I started back in 2005 as a guide. So I had a couple different roles here where I absolutely love working in the cycling industry. So led to a long career.
Yeah, I imagine all that time guiding yourself has left you with a pretty good sense of what it takes to design a trip. As a trip designer, what does that really mean?
Yeah. Well, trip designers are the ones who build the structure. We book the hotels, we design the routes and build the routes and software and book all the restaurants and basically just put the shell together. And then we convey it, sort of a hub at the wheel, convey it to every team within Trek Travel, play it to sales, and then we hand it over to the guys when it's time to run. And when they're running track, it's really their baby. And then we work very closely with them to sort of tweak it, modify it. But we then sort of take it back at the end of the season and massage out any form we want to change and then get it ready for the next year. So we're actually we're working in about 3 years at once. So it's very different than being a guide. When you're out there guiding, you are laser focused on each day of each trip and really the hospitality and taking care of your guests. So it was incredibly beneficial for me to be a guide and then turn into a trip designer. And that's how most of our trip design teams want a guide. And they then sort of wear both hats. And then some of us just move into the trip design world, and some of us continue to wear both hats.
That makes sense. How long has truck travel been in business?
This is our 21st year.
Wow. And
Yeah.
historically, have the trips always been on the road or were there off-road components?
Mostly on the road. We did have mountain bike trips for a while, but this is our first foray into gravel, aside from Gerona gravel that's been around for years. But yeah, from there to the road. Or
Interesting. So, obviously I've got personal experience on that Girona gravel tour. What was it that was sort of suggesting that an expansion would be, greeted with enthusiasm from your base?
well, just the growth of gravel in general. I mean, it's just exploded over the last several years, and all of our well, met a big contingent of our guides and our team loves to ride gravel, and that's what they're doing in their free time, letting their bike packing and south riding the gravel. And so we've been talking about it for 2 years because it's just become such a big industry. And the pandemic probably delayed this launch by a bit, but because of the scarcity of bikes and the uncertainty of everything, basically. But
When you As you introduced the Girona gravel trip originally, were there what kind of things were going through your mind in terms of bringing some of these newer athletes to gravel off road? Like, how do you think about trip design to make sure that everybody joining the trip is comfortable with the progression of technicality or amount of climbing or what have you?
we have what we call rider levels, and we rate every trip. When we so we're going for a variety of trips, and then we rate each trip according to the rider level, and we spell out on our website how difficult it is, and that includes distance, terrain, so how hilly is it, and also surface type, because gravel is very broad, and we do our best to sort of put them into a matrix so people can see the range of trips that we offer, and then select what might be the best for them. And then I spend a lot of time with our trip consultants, sort of explaining all this in detail so they can help steer people in the right direction. So we do try to offer a breadth of options for people who may have more experience or less experience. And then we also, when we're designing the trip and each day of the trip, we have multiple ride options. So we try to allow for different rider levels on any given day. The guides will help steer people toward what option might be best for them any day of the week, because as you experienced on Girona, each day's ride is quite different as well. And Girona, I know the rides kind of build on technicalities throughout the week. In other trips like Shenandoah Valley, they build to a big climb at the end of the week. But the climb isn't at the gliding area, but it's actually a paved climb and the side's paved. It's just part of a larger loop, and much of the loop is gravel. So each trip is different. And really the goal is you identify an area that is desirable. Yeah, it'd be a great place for a trip and has, of course, wonderful travel riding. And then I like to say you see what the area offers you and then you take advantage of it. So I don't go in with a preconceived notion of I'm going to design this trip in this way and going to be for these people. I go in with let me learn about this region. Let's see what's about, what it has to offer. And then we'll design accordingly, and then we'll describe it accordingly. Because, we our even our regular trips, there's a wide variety of types of trips. So we don't try to force anything. We just try to call it what it is and make it shine.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting, and I noted it in the first day of the Girona travel, the gravel tour, was just that assessing of the rider's abilities, and it was
Mhm.
pretty easy. It was casual. It wasn't like anybody was
Mhm.
testing. Can you brake? Can you skid? Can you go over a log or what have you? But
Yeah.
you could tell that the guides were being conscious of like, okay, what's the dynamic of this group? What are people's eagerness? Do people want to ride all day long? Do they want to not ride some days? And it became surprisingly easy to strike that balance in our group.
Mhm.
The few guys from California that I went over with, we were eager to ride as much as humanly possible. So,
Mhm.
on occasion we'd come home and say, "Hey, Mickey, we want to ride some more," and he would give us a GPS route, and we would just go out there and pedal to our heart's content, while
Yeah.
others were electing to take days off. And to your point, like there definitely was a progression in skills, in elevation, and everything along the way. I don't think anything would have, been out of reach of, most gravel cyclists, but there definitely would have been days that if you were a beginner, and one of the guys in my crew was a little bit more of a beginner, that a
Mhm.
couple of the descents made him think a little bit more. You don't really
Oh,
get
sure.
that. Yeah, on a road bike, you put on the brakes, and even if you're descending Alpe d'Huez, you just keep the bike in control, and it's no harder than your local mountain. But with the gravel, I think with everything, all the natural terrain in front of you, it's often a little bit challenging, and your eyes get wide, and you think, can these bikes really withstand this treatment?
Yeah. Yeah. It's, it's definitely so, like you said, you have to think more and gravel and really watch your speed on these descents. And the guides are incredible. Their wheels are turning before you need them. They they get a little intel on everybody, and their wheels are turning immediately. They always want to make it the best trip for every single person on the trip. And that first day is critical, and then sort of getting to know people a little bit during the bike fit, and then sort of, you know, ass- assessing yourself what's during the ride, because they're already planning the next day and the next day and the next day. So yeah, it's quite a feat, but they're really good at it. And when they know the terrain, like Nikki, with local and Girona, the it's pretty special what they can do, even with a larger group of people. Like you said, they're more than happy to give you some extra routes, or go on another ride and see you after
Yeah.
everyone else is done and having post right here. So it's really some fun.
You mentioned the bike fit element of it, and this was my first trip where I've ever ridden a bike provided by the organization. Obviously, I
Mhm.
was excited them being Trek bicycles in Girona. In 2022, it was the Demane, but I believe for 2023, you're moving over to the Checkpoint.
We are, yeah, very exciting. Checkpoint SLR7. So top of the line, electronic shifting, that Shimano, and it's a 2 by. So a 2 by 11 speed. We'll set it up to less, and that we're gonna bump the wheel to 45s instead of the stock 40s that come on them. And yeah, gonna be a great ride. And I think the rationale is we really want these trips to be accessible to everyone. And but this is the bike that provides the most comfort and the most stability and can handle the widest variety of terrain. Because we also have to select a single bike for all of these trips.
Yeah,
This
I
is the
think you're.
one that we all thought
I
better.
I think you're spot on there. I think, it actually, to me, it has two benefits. One, for newer riders, having the fatter tire is going to make them more comfortable. It's going to make it roll over stuff easier, a little bit smoother ride. But for more experienced riders, those 45s are going to allow you to really tear it up and get after things and have a lot of
Mhm.
fun.
Mhm. Yeah. I have the same bikes here at home. So I've been really enjoying trying it out, and it's just and it actually rolls great on pavement too. So they're just it's such versatile bikes here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to say, I was a little bit jealous because Mickey was already on a checkpoint, and I was eyeing his big tires from time to time as we got in the rougher
Yeah.
terrain, because that's what I typically ride at home.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say all the guides who could get their hands on a checkpoint in the last couple of years, who ride gravel have absolutely taken advantage of that.
Yeah. So we're moving from one gravel trip in 2022 all the way to six gravel trips, both in North
Mhm.
America and in Europe. I'd love to just kind of talk to you about A, let's first get on the table. Where are we going in 2023? And then B, let's just talk a little bit about each one.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's very exciting. This has been the better part of the second half of 2022. And my world has been spent putting things together in collaboration with a lot of our guides and other TCs. So we have three in North America and three in Europe. In the North American trips, in order are Bentonville and Vermont and Shenandoah Valley. And the European trips are, of course, Gerona, about the spring trip. And then we'll do Tuscany, and we'll do Swiss Alps, and then we'll come back to Girona.
Amazing. And when you say in order, is that a chronological order throughout the year when the trips are offered?
Right. Spring. Yeah, by season.
Gotcha. Well, sort of taking them one by one, let's start in North America to begin. Bentonville,
Mhm.
Shenandoah Valley in Virginia, and then Vermont. What
Mhm.
attracted you to those areas? And maybe as we go through one by one, just kind of give a highlight of what people might expect on that trip.
Sure. Like we debated many, many, many destinations. And at the end of the day, we were kind of zeroed in on destinations where we have guides who live there. That was a big factor because planning gravel, having local knowledge was indispensable in planning the best route. And so that was one big factor. And then all kinds of things sort of come into play. But we pretty quickly narrowed it down to three that were relatively close to each other. And then, of course, you have to cherry pick the best times to ride in these places. So you can't pick all spring destinations, for example. So you're playing with all kinds of things and put the puzzle together. But Bentonville, we actually had a good shell of a trip put together for Bentonville, but we offered as a self-guided trip a couple years ago. And we have a guy who lives there. And so that one was a no-brainer because Bentonville got all the infrastructure, as everyone knows, the mountain biking
Yeah.
of the world. It is incredible for mountain biking, but it is also incredible for gravel. You talk to any of the locals there, I go like, yeah, it's pretty special. And the beauty of this trip is it's 5 days. And so you can always tack on a few days on either end, grab a rental mountain bike and go to the trails either before or after. But the travel there is outstanding without being too difficult. And really, there's riding locally and rolling farm. And the highlight of the trip is, of course, modeled after the Big Sugar Race. So the gravel on the sort of northern side of town is absolutely epic. It's
Yeah.
fast and it's fun and it's beautiful. So you've got that, but you also have a great hotel in town, the 2019 Museum Hotel, which is an art
Yeah.
museum turned into a hotel on the square, and the food is incredible. So we're gonna eat at Preacher's Fun and Conifer and the Hyde at the hotel for dinner. So this trip is absolutely packed, and I didn't even mention the art. We're going to also visit Crystal Ridge's Art Museum in addition to riding through it. But we're going to visit cameras for like introduction tour. So that trip is just absolutely packed. Great stuff.
Yeah, it's such a great community, and it's
Mhm.
dark when you arrive there just how infused cycling culture is. There's bike paths everywhere you
Yeah.
need to go, and,
Yeah.
as you said, the gravel is great. It's very accessible, but it's a hell of a lot of fun as an experienced athlete too, as as you ramp up the speed going down those hills. The
Oh,
loose
yeah.
rocks on those, it's
Yeah.
exciting and exhilarating, but
Yeah.
again, like if you're going a little bit slower, it's totally accessible to a lot of riders, and then all those great things to do in Bentonville, like, it definitely I can see why that made it high up on your list of places to put a trip.
Yeah. I mean, it's really special when you arrive in a town. You just feel like, oh, this is home for cyclists. Like you love bike, like people, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was
Yeah.
really special.
Yeah, and to your point about, like, geographically locating the trips, within a reasonable distance, it's probably lost on many listeners that you've got a lot of logistics. You've got vans you need to bring to bear. You have the actual bicycles. You need spare bicycles, spare parts. So there's a lot of moving
Mhm.
pieces to this trip that make it logistically complicated for you at Trek Travel, but honestly, logistically simple for the guest because we just arrive with our chamois and our helmet and our shoes, and you'll take care of the rest.
Yeah. And you don't even have to bring a helmet. We have those too. But that is I think one thing that I always hits at church travel part is our partnership of track and bikes that we provide. And if you look at the gravel tourism industry, well, I can't name, that's true. Most do not include a bike. And I will just say no one include a bike, like checkpoint 5-7. But electronic shifting. It's all the bells and whistles, just like our Domani is for our regular trip. And so that is one really exciting sort of piece of that sets us apart. And it absolutely, yeah, our business is complicated. It always will be, but we all can thrive in chaos and do our best to present a seamless experience for the guests. That's the goal.
Yeah. And then I guess if we're going chronologically, next step would be domestically would be the Vermont gravel bike tour. Do you want to jump into that experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So Vermont has been in the trade travel portfolio since the company began. We've always run trips on Stowe, Vermont, and the Green Mountain. So that's where this trip begins. Start at the Green Mountain Inn in Stowe and do a couple of rides around there. We'll do a sugar tasting there or a sugar tour, learning about maple syrup and how it's made, and of course, do a taste of it. So get a little Vermont flavor in there. And then from there, we're going to ride from hotel to hotel, and you're going to go to the Northeast Kingdom and stay at an inn out in the country, just outside of East Coast. So a lot of people know that area for great mountain biking as well, but there are endless gravel roads. I picked up Vermont and it's all gravel. Really, you can ride gravel there. More gravel is cool because they have more gravel than pavement. It's just everywhere. So the rides there are about 70% gravel, and then they're hilly as you go from the Green Mountain up to equally hilly in the Northeast Kingdom. But very rural. I would say the highlight is the ride from hotel to hotel. You pass to Craftsbury, which is a small town, very accustomed to cyclists and outdoor enthusiasts of all sorts. And we'll have lunch at the general store called the Jenny as we pass through. I think that's going to be a great experience just to experience small town life in Vermont. And then we'll end with the staying at a small inn in it for fun to end the trip. And they are cycling enthusiasts there, and they also put on fabulous meals. So I would get one meal, and I think it'll be a spectacular trip. Incredible food throughout, high-end accommodations, and phenomenal road riding.
That's so fun. It's such a pretty state. I've only ever ridden on the road there, but definitely aspire to ride gravel once I get back there.
Yeah, yeah. It's creative altitude.
And then next up on your summer tour of gravel in the United States is the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia. That was probably the one on your list that I was most surprised about. So can you talk a little bit about that trip?
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually looking at another region and it just sort of wasn't panning out. And I just kept driving and went to Harrisonburg. One of our trip consultant ones there, and we kind of had it on the radar for a while. We also have a contingent that lives in North Carolina and lost to come up to Virginia to ride. So it is a well-kept secret. And that's another place where as soon as I got into town, unannounced, I started knocking on doors and immediately I was like, yeah, this is a bike Sunday town. These people love to ride. They're excited about bringing more cycling tourism to the area. And it's unique in that it's a valley, obviously Shenandoah Valley, but it's got mountains on both sides, the Allegheny Mountains and the Smoky Mountains. So you've really got everything at your disposal. So you've got riding in rolling farm country, and then you've got epic climbs on either side of you. So we're going to feature a climb to what's called Greenwich Knob, which is one of the high points of the state. It's on the West Virginia border. And that's actually a paved climb through national forest and a paved descent, but the rest of that loop is gravel. So it's going to be an epic day at the end of that trip, panoramic views at the top, and a nice change up from the rest of the riding. But it's a destination where I think it'll surprise and delight people because maybe you haven't heard of it, but if you dig just a little bit, you'll see that there's quite a cycling culture there. Great mountain biking as well, and almost anywhere there's going to be great mountain biking, gravel is going to go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people in Virginia right now listening who are saying hallelujah.
Yeah.
Don't let the
Oh,
secret
yeah.
out, but we are proud
I
of where
know.
we ride.
Yeah. I
I
feel a little
I
bad about that, but
Yeah, gravel riders, we're sort of, we can blend in, right? I
yeah.
I have a little bit of experience in that area on the mountain bike, as you were mentioning. It's a great mountain bike area, and when I was cutting my teeth as a young mountain biker out of Washington D.C., we would get into that region on our mountain bikes to go race
Mm,
some of the kind of classic East Coast races down there.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I recall having guests on a trip in California years ago who were like, gotta come to Virginia. They live near DC. And they're like, it's absolutely epic. You would love it. The riding is endless. Like, you have to come to Virginia. So hopefully they're listening and they're probably like, it's about time. It's so long.
One. Nice. So now let's hop over to the European trips. I forget the chronological order. Are we starting in Girona over there?
Starting in Gerona. Yeah. Yeah. Because
Okay.
it's just got great weather, spring and fall. So we're starting in Girona. That is our only level 4 trip, which means a little more advanced. So some of the gravel riding is more technical. It's the only trip where we incorporate some single track and some connectors that say are unmaintained roads, so they get a little more gnarly than what we've been seeking out elsewhere. So that is one thing that sets Gerona apart. And the other thing is we've had it running for a couple of years now. So it's a well-oiled machine. We have a handful of local guides there who love it. And it's really their trip. I mean, they've made it what it is. So a lot of culture infused there, a lot of local knowledge infused there, and great little hotel in the center of this charming little town. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll refer the listener back to a couple episodes where I've interviewed both our guides while I was over there and gave a little bit of my day to day of that trip, as well as an original episode going back, gosh, I think mid pandemic, when I was hoping to go very early on, maybe in
oh, wow.
2020, that
Okay.
Ewan came on and talked about that trip as well. So
Oh,
we've covered
great.
that
Okay. I
territory. I'm a
remember
big
that.
fan of Girona. I feel like anybody who's into
Yeah,
cycling knows that that's just a hub and a great place to be.
absolutely. Yeah. But what I guess I didn't realize is how epic the gravel is there in addition to the road driving. So
Yeah, 100%. Like they just so much of Mickey was saying, they had all these old rail lines that then got, repurposed into gravel roads, and they litter the town from every direction.
yeah, yeah. That's I'm heading there in February. So I can't wait to do a couple of the rides that you get to go on.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then what's up next over in Europe?
Tuscany. Yeah.
Okay.
So
The white
Tuscany's
roads of
another,
Tuscany.
oh yeah, Strada Bianchi. It's gonna be amazing. It's another region that Turtel has, been running trips in forever. And we all love it. It just never gets old. I got there in 2015 and got to ride some of this gravel. So anyone who is gravel enthusiast probably knows about the race, Strada Bianchi, and also the Aroca vintage cycling race. And our trip really blends those two together. So we spend some time around Gaioli and near Siena, first hotels near Siena, riding some of the Strada Bianchi and Oroca routes. But you get to experience wine country, and you get to have lunch, I think it is, in Dioli and visit the road store. And you also get to have coffee and a little tour of Siena where you're watching the end of any race. Well, it's like some second cross races to Strade. They end in the piazza in Siena, and it's just like an incredible experience. So we're gonna do that on the trip, and then we're gonna finish near Montalcino, a little bit further south, and the riding just goes on and on. I think you know, some of my favorite riding when I was there in southern Tuscany, where it's a little less touristy and you're sort of getting off the beaten path there. And we have a couple of guides who, well, one in particular who really rides gravel a lot there and knows all the ins and outs of the gravel roads. So he got to put this together, and he, I think, really made it shine. The other fun piece of it is that the second hotel is actually an ecotourismo, which we don't typically stay in. So it's a working farm that also is a hotel. So, you know, the definition of farm to table dining, basically. This ecotourismo is very high end. It's absolutely beautiful. And our final night will be a meal that is paired with wines from their cellar, some of their older favorite wines. So it's going to be an absolutely epic trip with great riding and, of course, in a year. So outstanding food and wine to pair with it.
Yeah, super cool. I imagine, and I've never ridden there myself, but just seeing Strada Bianca, the dirt roads are, I mean, relative in the spectrum of these gravel trips, it seems like these are sort of smoother dirt roads than elsewhere.
I would say, yeah, honestly, for all of our trips, the goal was to find the smoothest gravel roads that we possibly could. So we're not trying to search out the most difficult, gnarly, technical riding. We're trying to make these accessible to everyone who has even a bit of gravel experience, so that just comfortable riding on those surfaces, because you can't avoid hills and cornering, and so you need a little bit of experience. But these, I would say, Vermont. The dirt roads are super hard packed, and like sometimes they're just dirt. You don't even have, you have very low gravel. In Tuscany, probably have more gravel consistently, but the roads are fairly smooth. They're just hilly.
Yeah. And are they sort of the punchy style climbs?
Yeah, I would say Vermont and Tuscany are known for short, steep shells. That's just the nature of the riding there. You really can't get away from it. So similar to our regular Vermont trip and our regular Tuscany trip, these are hilly trips. Villa is a little flatter. It's more like woolen farmland. Shenandoah Valley, more like woolen farmland. Yeah, so they all are, slightly different. In general, you can never escape hills. And we're looking for mostly steep dirt roads with not a crazy amount of hill. So
Yeah.
relatively not.
Got it. Got it. And then that final trip of the year heading over to the Swiss Alps.
Yeah, yeah, this one is super exciting. Again, one of our guides lives there. This trip is on the eastern side of Switzerland in the Engadine Valley, and it starts in a town called School. And one of our long-standing amazing guides lives there, and she's been dreaming about getting this trip on our docket for years. So she put this together in addition, one of our trip designers who is a ski instructor in St. Moritz. So that's where the trip ends, on the other side of the valley, near St. Moritz. And you're basically riding in the valley surrounded by the Alps and glacier is the entire time. So that means that the terrain is hilly. Inevitably, when you leave the valley, you're going up, so it's more long, gradual climbs there. But the well, what's unique about this one is it's mostly most of the gravel is on bike paths, and then most of the other riding that's not gravel is still a designated bike route. So it's very little traffic there. I mean, that's to be expected when you're riding gravel to begin with, but here it'll be very, very little traffic, and the combination of gravel bike paths and really narrow paved lanes going side to run up and down the valley. And of course, there will be a fondue dinner, so to get to experience that. And it's incredible views of the valley and the pristine. I just looked at the pictures for that trip, and I have to go.
Yeah, I was gonna
It's
say
the only one I haven't seen.
the pictures on the website are just ridiculous how scenic it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah.
I
Beautiful.
love it. Well, that's super exciting just to one, get the overview of all these great trips that you have planned for 2023. And I'm super excited for you guys to continue to get feedback from riders as to what they like and don't like about them. And,
Mhm.
um, what an exciting journey to sort of have 6 new trips on the calendar.
Yeah, it's I've been doing this for a while, and this is like unprecedented for me in terms of what I get to do on the day to day. So I'm really excited to get this out there. I know that our guides are too. I mean, everyone who helped design these trips is going to be working them next year, and I know that they'll evolve. Yeah, absolutely. The way all of our trips work, you take feedback from the guides and the guests, and the more we sink into a region, the more we learn about it, that new trips become. So this will definitely evolve. And as we learn, I sure hope that the entire category just continues to grow.
Yeah. As I've said many times on the podcast before, I'm a big fan of this idea of gravel travel. And as much as I like going to do events and races, for me, it's more about being in that region and sampling a bit more. And sometimes I get drawn into whether it's the length of the event or just, wanting to perform well. I limit my riding because I just want to be able to complete that 1 day ride. And sometimes I leave those regions thinking, gosh, like, I wish I was just riding every single day a little bit
Yeah.
less than putting
Yeah.
all my eggs into this one day.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the beauty of these vacations. You really can really get to sink into a region and see it right day after day after day. Kind of like the whole
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, totally.
Right. After that.
Totally. Yeah, there's something to be said for having nothing to do but ride all day and pretty much have the logistics all taken care of for you.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, I hear that from my friends. It's truly what I love to do in my free time as well. So now that I live in a place that's full of gravel, we have people visiting and go out for 4 days. And for me, it's the best staycation I've ever had. And for them, they feel like they're on a travel trip. So
I bet.
yeah, it's really fun.
You bet you better watch out. You may have some listeners knocking at your door wanting a personal tour.
Hey, bring it on. I already have it planned.
Thanks again, Amy. I really appreciate the time and I'm excited to revisit this conversation at the end of the year and see how everything goes.
Yeah, me too. Awesome. Thank you for having us and for bringing attention to gravel travel. Hopefully, it's just going to keep growing, and I look forward to doing more myself, discovering more destinations.
Big thanks to Amy for joining the show today. I'm super excited to hear that Trek Travel is doubling down on gravel travel for 2023. I don't know about you, but there are more than a handful of those destinations I'd love to ride in myself. I've covered a few, but absolutely I encourage you to go to the trektravel.com website and check out those pictures, particularly for the Swiss trip. It just looks absolutely spectacular. A huge thanks to Athletic Greens for being a longtime supporter of the show. Remember, head on over to athleticgreens.com/thegravelride to get your free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs added to your order. If you're interested in connecting with me, please join the Ridership. That's www.theridership.com. That's a free online cycling community where you can connect with me and other gravel athletes for around the world. If you have the ability to support the show, please visit buymeacoffee.com/thegravelride. Until next time, here's to finding some dirt under your wheels.